In a world where everyone feels pressured to speak, prove, and react, the true strength lies in knowing when to remain silent. This video explores 11 powerful moments when silence becomes not a retreat but a declaration of inner mastery. Based on timeless Stoic principles from Marcus Aurelius Seneca and Epictetus, each situation is more than a lesson in restraint. It's an invitation to clarity, purpose, and emotional resilience. Whether you're facing unfair criticism, navigating anger, or simply overwhelmed by life, these reflections will help you build unshakable peace from within. Watch till the end, not just to learn when to be quiet, but to understand how silence can shape your decisions, protect your dignity, and reconnect you to your truest self. Welcome to Stoic Wisdom, where stillness isn't emptiness, it's power in motion. When criticism comes at the wrong time from the wrong person, composure is the deepest kind of response. Have you ever found yourself the target of a comment so misplaced, so unjust that your first instinct was to defend yourself immediately? Perhaps at a meeting, someone blamed you for a failure you had little to do with. Or maybe a family member twisted your words into something unrecognizable. The sting of such moments is real, and the temptation to react can be overwhelming. But here's what the Stoics knew. Your worth doesn't decrease because someone fails to see it. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that you always have the option of having no opinion. This isn't indifference, it's mastery, because silence when intentional is not submission, it's self-control. Imagine you're at a dinner and a relative suddenly makes a cutting remark about your career or lifestyle. Your mind scrambles to defend yourself, to clarify, to make them understand. But what if you didn't? What if you chose instead to pause, breathe, and let the moment pass like a wave that never reached shore? Seneca wrote that unfair criticism often reveals more about the speaker than the target. Sometimes the person speaking is projecting their own fear, failure, or frustration. By staying silent, you hold up a mirror not to reflect the insult, but to reflect their inner conflict. More importantly, your silence becomes a choice. A declaration: I do not need to justify myself to noise. In that decision, you reclaim your power. You protect your peace. Let your calm be the conversation. Let your silence be your boundary. Let your integrity be the part they can never touch. When boasting turns into a silent competition, calmness is the highest expression of inner strength. There's a kind of noise that doesn't shout, but still presses on the Minda room, filled with quiet competition. Someone talks endlessly about their success, their habits, their superiority. It could be a colleague bragging about their latest deal, or a friend turning every conversation into a monologue about how far they've come. You sit there aware of your own achievements, your own quiet wins, and yet something tugs at you, the urge to join in to prove you are just as capable. But here's what Stoicism teaches us. True strength never needs to prove itself. Marcus Aurelius said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. When you stay silent in the face of boasting, it isn't because you lack something to say. It's because you know your worth isn't validated by comparisons. Let them talk. Let them perform. Your calmness is not submission. It's power under control. Imagine you're at a dinner. Someone starts reciting their morning routine like a TED Talk. 5 a.m. runs back-to-back meetings. Flawless discipline. You could counter with your own, but you don't. You smile, you listen, you stay grounded. Not because you are impressed, but because you have nothing to prove. Seneca reminds us that timing matters. There is a season for speech and a season for silence. By choosing silence, you show you are not easily provoked, not easily baited. And that's a different kind of dominance. In a world obsessed with applause, staying quiet becomes an act of rebellion, a form of inner clarity, a reminder that you are not competing, you are simply living on your own terms. When anger rises, don't let a moment of rage cost you your long-term values. Anger is fast. It hits like lightning, sudden, hot, and blinding. One moment you're composed, the next your pulse is racing and your thoughts are sharp with judgment. Maybe someone cut in line. Maybe a colleague dismissed your work in front of others. The urge to snap back, to reclaim your dignity, feels irresistible. But here's what the Stoics knew. What feels like power and anger is often just loss of clarity, control, and peace. The Stoics never denied anger. They respected it enough to not let it lead. Marcus Aurelius advised, how much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? Imagine you're in traffic. A car swerves recklessly, nearly hitting yours. You want to shout, gesture, retaliate, but you stop. You breathe. You realize that this moment, though fiery, is not worth your inner calm. Choosing silence in anger is not weakness, it's strength in pause. It's refusing to let someone else dictate your emotional state. Seneca taught that anger is often born not from the act, but from the expectation that things should have gone differently. And when reality doesn't match expectation, we fight. But what if you let go of the expectation instead? What if you trained yourself to see the trigger, acknowledge it, and still choose peace? This doesn't mean becoming passive. It means becoming deliberate. It means standing strong without striking. Silence and anger gives you time to choose your values over your impulses. Because no argument is worth becoming someone you'll regret. No victory is worth losing your center. When rumors spread faster than truth, let silence protect you from battles unworthy of your peace. There comes a moment when your name is passed around, not as a person, but as a story. A version of you begins to circulate, twisted, exaggerated, and stripped of truth. It starts with one whisper, then another, and suddenly people begin to look at you differently. The instinct is clear: explain, correct, confront. But what if that very urge feeds the fire? The Stoics taught that silence in the face of falsehood is not surrender. It is restraint. It is the choice to let time speak instead of your tongue. Seneca wrote, "Time discovers truth." That means you don't have to fight every lie. You simply have to outlast them. Imagine you're at work and someone claims you sabotaged a project. It's false and you have evidence. You want to defend yourself publicly to prove them wrong, but you pause. You consider whether the fight is worth your inner balance, and you choose silence not out of fear, but out of discipline. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you control your response, not the opinions of others. And in that control lies freedom. When you stop reacting to every rumor, you start building a life so solid that no gossip can shake it. Let your actions speak. Let your integrity be louder than your words. This doesn't mean you let lies stand forever. It means you don't let them define your next move. Your truth will not be carried by urgency, but by consistency. And when the noise fades and the crowd looks for substance, they'll find you unshaken, focused, and free. When loss pulls you into an empty space, silence is where pain is transformed into inner power. Loss arrives without warning. A phone call, a conversation, or a slow realization, and suddenly something once constant is gone. A person, a dream, a version of life you once held close. The world keeps moving, but inside you feel still, numb, heavy. Everyone wants you to move on, to heal quickly. But Stoicism doesn't rush grief. It walks with it. It allows space for silence, for reflection, for truth. The Stoics understood that we suffer not just because we lose, but because we resist what is. Epictetus taught it's not things that disturb us, but our judgment about them. And so in loss, silence becomes sacred. It is the pause where acceptance begins. It is where we stop asking why and start asking how we will carry this pain forward with meaning. Imagine losing someone you love deeply. There are no right words. People say things to help, but nothing really touches the ache inside. In that quiet, the Stoic doesn't deny sorrow. They sit with it, not to wallow, but to witness, because grief is not weakness. It is the cost of connection. To feel deeply is to lose deeply, and that is not something to fix, but to honor. In silence, the noise of the world fades and the heart begins to speak. It says, "This hurts, but I'm still here." It says, "I have lost, but I will not lose myself." And slowly strength returns, not in loud declarations, but in quiet resolve. In showing up, in living fully, not despite the loss, but because of it. When the arrogant think they know it all, silence is the armor that protects your wisdom from pointless debates. There's a particular kind of frustration that comes not from conflict, but from ignorance disguised as confidence. You've seen it. A person speaks with absolute certainty about something they barely understand. They interrupt, dominate, correct others loudly even when they're wrong. The urge to correct them is strong. You want to defend truth, to prove them wrong, to put them in their place. But before you do, ask yourself, will this change anything? The Stoics believed that not every battle is worth fighting. Epictetus taught, if someone speaks badly of you and it's true, correct yourself. If it's false, why be upset? That wisdom applies here too. You're not responsible for fixing ignorance that doesn't want to be fixed. Imagine a meeting where someone is confidently presenting wrong information. You know the facts. But instead of interrupting, you wait. You watch. And later, when it matters, when the facts are needed, when decisions are being made, you speak with clarity, not to win, but to serve the truth. Socrates, though not a Stoic, was admired by them for a reason. He didn't fight ignorance with ego. He asked questions. He created space for people to confront their own contradictions. That's not silence out of fear. That's strategic quiet letting. Others reveal the limits of their knowledge themselves. Silence in these moments is not withdrawal. It's elevation. It says, I don't need to prove him right to know that I am. I won't waste energy on what is unworthy of my growth. In a world where noise often drowns out truth, choosing silence can be the most intelligent response. It is not about giving up. It's about rising above. Let your stillness become a boundary, your focus a shield. Let your wisdom speak, not through argument, but through action. When misunderstandings distort your image, don't let explanations become a trap for your insecurity. There are times when people misunderstand you, not because you lied, but because they already chose a version of you that fits their story. You find yourself misrepresented, misquoted, or subtly excluded. The temptation is to chase down every misunderstanding, to clarify, to prove your intentions. But the more you explain, the more it seems like you're pleading. And sometimes the harder you try to be understood, the more invisible you become. The Stoics remind us that your reputation is not entirely yours to control. What belongs to you is your character, how you act, not how others interpret it. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them." Imagine you hear that someone close to you believes you said something you never did. You want to correct it. You want to sit them down, go over the timeline, show them you were honest. But here's the question. Are you clarifying for truth or for validation? When insecurity drives the urge to explain, the result is rarely peace. Instead, we exhaust ourselves trying to convince people who've already made up their minds. There is power in letting silence do what explanation cannot. When you stop chasing perception, you start deepening presence. People who truly see you won't need constant clarification, and those who don't want to understand won't, no matter how carefully you speak. So when you're misunderstood, take a breath. Ask yourself if the battle is about truth or ego. Then act from your center. Keep walking. Let your life, not your defense, shape the story they eventually remember. When injustice happens in everyday life, integrity is the most enduring form of resistance. Life is not fair, and the Stoics never claimed otherwise. You can do everything right, be honest, work hard, treat others well, and still be overlooked, misjudged, or wronged. The sting of injustice is sharp because it touches our sense of worth. The instinct is to strike back, to expose, to demand recognition. But what if true strength lies not in reaction, but in restraint? Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Injustice, then, is not just a wound. It is a test of who you are when no one is clapping, when no one is watching. Imagine you spent months on a project only for someone else to take credit. Or you speak up for what's right, and instead of being thanked, you're pushed aside. You want to fight? And maybe one day you will. But the Stoic ask, what matters more, retaliation or reputation? When you respond to injustice with clarity, not fury, with persistence, not noise, you build something more lasting than revenge. You build integrity. You show that your values are not for sale, that your path is not dictated by provocation. Marcus Aurelius taught that our actions should be guided by character, not applause. The world may not reward your decency in the moment, but your soul will. Injustice tests your patience, your focus, and your purpose. But if you can stay grounded, if you can act from principle instead of pride, then even in silence you are resisting, not by matching cruelty, but by refusing to mirror it. So when the world treats you unfairly, breathe, stay steady, keep doing what is right, even if it goes unnoticed. Because real power doesn't shout, it endures. When insults target your self-worth, learn not to carry what doesn't belong to you. There are moments when words hit harder than we expect. A sarcastic remark, a passive-aggressive jab, or a careless comment spoken in front of others. Suddenly you're spiraling, replaying what they said, questioning your value, crafting comebacks you never use. It feels personal, and maybe that's because it was meant to be. But Stoicism teaches us this truth. The insult only hurts if you agree with it. Epictetus once said, if someone provokes you, it's because your mind is complicit. That may sound harsh, but there's freedom in it. You don't have to carry every word thrown at you. You can observe, let go, and walk on. Imagine a coworker mocks your work in a meeting. It's subtle, but the message is clear. You feel the heat rise in your chest. Your instincts push you to speak up, to defend yourself. But you pause. You remind yourself their words are not a reflection of your worth. They are a mirror of theirs. Silence here is not weakness. It's a refusal. A refusal to let someone else decide your identity. A refusal to let a fleeting insult shape your entire day. Seneca wrote, "No man is hurt but by himself." You can acknowledge the sting without letting it settle inside you. You can feel it and still choose not to live from it. Every insult offers a choice, absorb it or let it pass. Letting it pass doesn't mean you're blind. It means you're strong enough not to be moved by every shadow that crosses your path. So next time someone aims to wound you with words, remember what they throw says more about them. What you carry says everything about you. When you're lost among choices, sometimes silence is an invitation to rediscover your true purpose. There are seasons in life when clarity disappears. You look around and everything feels equally uncertain. Career paths, relationships, next steps, they all blur into noise. Everyone has advice. Everyone has a direction they think you should take. But their voices, no matter how well-meaning, don't quiet the unrest inside you. In moments like these, Stoicism offers something rare, the courage to pause. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your mind is constantly reacting to external opinions, your inner self gets painted with confusion that isn't even yours. So what if you stop trying to respond to all of it? What if instead of rushing to decide, you let silence do its work? Imagine sitting in your room, the world pressing in with expectations. You feel the weight of needing to figure everything out. But what if figuring it out isn't the goal right now? What if listening is not listening to others, but to yourself? Silence isn't the absence of action. It's the space where real alignment begins. It allows you to notice what you've been ignoring, the quiet desires, the honest doubts, the path that makes sense not to others but to you. Epictetus reminds us, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. But how can you know what you would be if you're always surrounded by noise? Stepping back doesn't mean giving up. It means returning to the core, to the compass, to the why. And when you act from that place, not from pressure, not from fear, you don't just move forward. You move with meaning. So if you feel lost in a sea of options, don't drown trying to swim in all directions. Float in stillness. Let silence clarify. Let it remind you that purpose doesn't shout. It whispers, and it waits for you to listen. When life overwhelms you, silence isn't weakness, it's a space to recover and rebuild your strength. There are days when everything feels too loud, responsibilities pile up, messages, deadlines, demands, all pulling at you from different directions. Even the smallest decision feels like too much. You're not lazy, you're not lost, you're just overwhelmed. And in a world that glorifies constant productivity, admitting that can feel like failure. But the Stoics offer a different perspective. When life feels heavy, don't run faster. Step back. Be still. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." But to enter that space, you have to pause. You have to allow quiet. Imagine waking up already tired. You check your phone and the flood of tasks and conversations begins. You barely breathe between obligations. Your mind races, your chest tightens. In this moment, silence is not luxury, it is medicine. The Stoics didn't just train for conflict, they trained for recovery. They understood that strength isn't just how much you can take, but how wisely you restore. And restoration begins in silence. Seneca wrote that retreating into oneself isn't escape, it's preparation. It's a return to the source where clarity lives, where you can ask without noise what matters. What can wait? What must I let go? This isn't avoidance, it's intention, choosing to quiet the world for a while so you can hear your own thoughts, so you can breathe, so you can remember that resilience doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, rest, then return. So when the world feels like too much, don't try to outpace it. Create space. In that space, you don't disappear, you gather, you heal. And when you emerge, it won't be rushed. It will be real. In a world that shouts, choose the strength to be still. In every moment of noise, there lies a choice to react or to return to yourself. The Stoics never promised an easy life. They promised a disciplined one where silence is not absence but presence, not weakness but wisdom. In these 11 moments, we have not learned to withdraw from the world, but to engage with it more deliberately, more intentionally. Silence is not about having nothing to say. It's about knowing when words no longer serve. It's the quiet breath before a wise response. The pause that protects your clarity. The stillness that strengthens your inner compass. You are not here to explain yourself to everyone. You are not here to win every argument or fix every misunderstanding. You are here to live with depth, with intention, and with dignity. So let your silence speak of your strength. Let your stillness reflect your purpose. And when the world demands noise, offer it something rarer. A calm, grounded presence, one that cannot be shaken, one that knows who it is even when no one else does.